Hi all and welcome to this GCSE PE video. This one's going to be on the heart and we're going to primarily focus on all the parts of the heart. So you probably know that your heart's situated about there in the middle of your rib cage, okay? Almost just left of centre, okay? And we're going to look at the walls of the heart, the chambers and the valves. But we're also going to look at the blood vessels that connect to the heart, okay? So you're going to know how to label the heart and what function those things have. So let's look at the heart. So we've got this simple picture here. Now I've got two pictures to show you. This one's a simple one to start with. The exam board are favouring in more recent exams the more complicated ones, so I'm going to focus on that as well. So we're going to look at the right and the left side first. So the right hand side, which is this side, as you look it's the left side, but that is the right hand side of the heart. You can tell it's the right hand side of the heart because often on diagrams it's the blue side because that has deoxygenated blood. It's also, if you can see, it has slightly thinner wall than the other side. The other side has a thicker wall, the left side has a thicker wall. Okay, so it pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So blood comes in there, deoxygenated, and it's pumped out to the lungs from that right side. Now the left side, now that side pumps oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. So it doesn't go to the lungs, but it goes to everywhere else. And that's often red. And as I said, it has the bigger cardiac muscle at this side. Okay. This is a diagram that's probably more similar to what you'll see in the exam now. Unfortunately, the exam's not in colour, so it'll be in black and white, often slightly light or slightly dark. We're going to look at the chambers. Now the chambers are these four sections of the heart. There's two at the top and there's two at the bottom. So this side, so on our right hand side, we've got our right atrium, and that's the top chamber on the right hand side of the heart. That's where blood comes into the heart from the body. And then on the other side, we've got our left atrium, and that's where bloods come in from our lungs with oxygen. Now, below our right atrium, we've got our right ventricle. So blood passes from the right atrium through a valve and into the right ventricle. And then it's pumped from the right ventricle out to the lungs. On the left side, our left ventricle. Now that has to pump the blood all the way around the body. So when the blood enters the left ventricle, the next place it leaves, it goes into an artery and dispersed around the body. One of the ways I try and remember this is if you wrote the alphabet downwards down your page, A would be at the top and V would be lower down. So A for atrium at the tops and V for ventricle lower down. So the walls of the heart. So this middle wall, that is called the septum. Now the septum divides both sides of the heart. It separates the right and the left side. Now that's really important because it stops deoxygenated blood mixing with oxygenated blood. Otherwise, we're going to get the wrong mix of oxygen and carbon dioxide around the body. We want oxygen-rich blood going to the body, and we want carbon dioxide blood, deoxygenated blood, going to the lungs. So that septum is really important for keeping that division. And the other bit, which surrounds the whole heart, is called our cardiac muscle. Now, I spoke about the cardiac muscle in another video. I'll leave a link here and you can check that out. Now, the cardiac muscle is the muscle that pumps the heart, that creates that pumping action. It never gets tired and it can increase in strength with exercise, such as continuous training. Now, it's bigger on the left-hand side than it is on the right because the left-hand side of the heart has got to pump it further. So it's got to increase the amount of pressure and the distance that the blood has to flow. The right-hand side has only got to pump it to the lungs. Now, the lungs are really close to the heart, whereas the left-hand side has to pump it all the way around the body. Okay, let's look at the valves. So this first valve, which is just between the right atrium and the right ventricle, that is called the tricuspid valve. Now, the right-hand side, R for right, and tricuspid, also has an R in it as well. Okay, so that's one of the ways I remember that. So the tricuspid valve allows blood from the right atrium into the right ventricle. On the opposite side, the other valve is called the bicuspid valve. Now, you might also find stuff that says that's called the mitral valve. Okay, for other exam boards and other textbooks, you might find that it is also called the mitral valve. Now, the bicuspid valve divides the left atrium and allows blood to flow into the left ventricle. Now, these valves are really clever. They allow blood to flow from the atrium into the ventricle. They then shut again, and they stop the blood flowing backwards. Now, what they're connected with is this thing called chordae tendineae. Now, the chordae tendineae open those valves to allow blood to flow through, and then allow the valves to shut and seal to keep the blood in the ventricle ready to be pumped out of the heart. Okay, and it's pumped out of the heart through these valves called the pulmonary valve on the right hand side and the aortic valve on the other. You might find their name called the semilunar valves as well. So those valves allow the blood to leave the heart, and as soon as the blood has left the heart, it can't flow backwards back into the ventricles. Okay, let's look at these blood vessels now. So what we have is we have arteries that allow blood to flow away from the heart. So this one's called the aorta, and it leaves the left ventricle with oxygenated blood and carries blood away from the heart to the rest of the body. A for arteries, A for away. I've spoken about blood vessels in another video. Again, here is the link for that. Now this one's called the vena cava. Now that's a vein, so V for vena cava and V for vein. Okay, that allows blood to flow into the heart from the body. So it's returning blood from the body back into the right atrium. This one is the left pulmonary vein, and that is bringing blood back from the lungs with oxygenated blood because it's red, and that is bringing blood into the left atrium. And on the other side, our right pulmonary vein, well, that just brings oxygenated blood from our right lung. So the left pulmonary vein brings blood from our left lung, and our right pulmonary vein brings oxygenated blood from our right lung. They both go into the left atrium. And then up here, we've got our left pulmonary artery. That's taking blood to the left lung with carbon dioxide. And this one is our right pulmonary artery, and that's taking deoxygenated blood to our right lung. Okay, I hope you found this video useful. By all means, go and find a diagram of the heart, try and label it. There are questions, AO1 style questions, where you will have to label parts of the heart or the circulatory system. Now, my next video will be on the passage of blood around the body. Good luck.